Hi, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thank you for being here, and thanks to OGtoken to have me on this virtual event. Ernest, thank you for the presentation and the introduction of myself and Consensus. I think there is one more important factor that will help people recognize Consensus a bit more, which is actually, if you're using MetaMask is a Consensus product. So Consensus has a lot of products, including MetaMask and Infura. And my role actually there is I'm taking care of the DeFi and wallet space as part of the sales team. So I get to meet a lot of organizations, a lot of startups, a lot of companies who are either established in the Web3 ecosystem or building their businesses. And for today, what I thought could be interesting is really to aggregate some of these learnings, some of these things that I've seen in the market, and then build kind of like a playbook that if you are curious about Web3, if you are starting your startup, your project, if you have an idea, but then you want to make sure that you're looking at all the angles, perhaps this is a good place to start. So with that, I'll share my screen first and then entire screen share. And then I'll have my presentation going. Sorry, can anybody confirm that you can see the deck that says building a sustainable Web3 business? I cannot see the chat, so. Let me take a look. Chat. Yes, it can be seen. Perfect. Go back to it. All right. So obviously, actually, what you see today in the Web3 ecosystem is a lot. Maybe start, make a big growth, and then crash, or they don't grow, or things happen along the way. And so the focus of this presentation is really on the sustainability factor and how do you make your business sustainable in this economy that is the Web3 economy. So first of all, I think most of us were looking at mission statements and what we are starting our businesses for. To group maybe in a very crude way, there is probably three categories. Either actually some of the Web3 projects are entertainment focused, so either it's gaming, so GameFi, or art, collectibles, or media focused. Or other actually segments are the financial inclusion systems, which is you see a lot of DeFi things, you see a lot of payment solutions, you see a lot of settlement, cryptocurrencies and whatnot. But then also equally important what I like to refer to as per the term going around right now, which is the network state. So this is like the DAOs, this is the communities that are reassembling themselves, and usually they have a cause. And so they use the blockchain, they use the decentralization power of the blockchain to really push their agenda and push their community goals forward. And so whatever the segment is, of course, it's important to have a mission, but then also like in all of these areas, sustainability is key. So you see a lot of examples. I'll maybe take Axie Infinity in the gaming, whereby the business is not really sustainable, and so things does not last very long, and the users will drop either quickly or the economics of the game will drop quickly. Similar with some financial DeFi or CeFi solutions. So we've seen a lot of Luna being the latest one, where offering like a massive APY, a massive return, is not sustainable. So with that one, yeah, you can get 30%, 40% in the first few weeks, but then you're not going to be getting that all the time. And similar with DAOs and decentralized organizations, where if you don't have a mission, if you don't have the right tools that bring them together, usually these communities fizzle out and they don't continue to last for a long time and they don't even achieve their goal. So it's really important to think about what you're building and the problem statement that you're solving, but then say, how can I continue solving this over the next year or 2 years or 20 years that you'll be operating in? And obviously, the key characteristic of the Web3 economy is that there is money involved. There is value being actually held by the participants of any Web3 type application. Now, most of the projects really focus on funding as the primary goal of revenue. Token sales is the way to go. Like the project has not even started, has not even launched, and then usually you have a token that people can buy, and it's a speculative token in a way. But it's also important to know that token sales is not the only way to raise funds. We've seen some models, we've seen some interesting projects where, it is a DeFi or is like a Web3 project, but it's based on subscription or based on advertising, ad revenue, or even, of course, some of them should not be even for profit. And so, for example, groups and communities coming together, and the goal is not really to get money from that community and then make money, but it's really to just leverage the power of blockchain, which is much more than just token sales and speculation. I think what we notice as well in many of the projects we talk about, the basics of economy, like Econ 101, is not there. And so, I put it there just as a reminder. If you have a input coming from, either an investment or a payment or subscription fees and whatnot, and then you got to subtract some costs from that, unless there is a value created by your Web3 project, the output will be negative, and that actually will hurt the sustainability, of course. So it's very important to focus on the value creation within your ecosystem. What value are you adding to that input that will allow you to keep growing as a business, to keep growing as a community, to keep growing as a treasury, perhaps, that you're deploying to a few things. Now, more on the practical side, of course, token design is a big thing. Should you go through the token path? It's very important to understand how tokens are designed. So there is base functionalities in tokens where, you're looking at the issuance, you're looking at distribution, the emission, how, what's the balance of this token. But then also usually there is additional functionalities that you will add to these tokens. So things, for example, like maybe staking or mining, or maybe looking at how would you drop along the way. Maybe there is like subsequent drops into your token. And of course, for certain projects, perhaps there is the token being used for voting rights or using for grants or for acquiring community members and so on. So having like this token design, it's quite important at the beginning. Couple of things. There is a lot of resources that you, of course, can read, and I encourage you all to actually go through it and understand different models of token releases and what worked, what did not work. In Consensus, we have actually a crypto economic research team that is quite reputable, and then it publishes a lot of blogs quite frequently. So I invite you to check out that blog, and you honestly, like, there will be something every couple of weeks, and you can learn about it. Now, if you're a bigger project and things are getting a bit more serious, then you should probably hire an experienced crypto economic team that will come and help you with the design of your white paper or light paper of the token and help you grow your token sustainable economics, essentially. And so we have that in Consensus. Happy to help with that part. Of course, VCs and incubators is another area. I think one thing that I noticed talking to many projects is really the weak capability of pitching your project. So it's very important to present your idea, especially if it's not built yet, under the best light. And so I really encourage all of the new businesses to go and invest into finding templates of pitch books, working on their pitching presentation skills, because the other side of the coin is that these VCs and investors, they see 100 presentations a month. So if you're really not grabbing right away that first attention and stating your purpose, you will not get that. And yeah, it's a wild world out there. So you have to learn about it a bit more and manage how you can get the reference and the introductions. Now, of course, for most projects in Web3, there is a strong community arm in there. And I think some fundamental things that get confused within the community, or when you're thinking about your community, is really understanding the ownership model of your business. Are you a centralized business or are you a decentralized business? Because if you're using blockchain, if you're using Ethereum or if you're using any other blockchain, it doesn't make you automatically decentralized. And so that actually implies different operating models. The other thing is the clear definition of the roles of your community. A community is a community and client is a client. Are you offering a service and the people that are coming to use your service are client? So essentially they will inject some value into your business and then they expect a return, whether in financial service or maybe some other value that they will get from it. A community is a bit different. And so if you are actually building a community, then you got to understand what that community is going to do for you. So it's the community contributing through money or idea. DAOs, for example, build treasuries or maybe build knowledge or offer their time for certain services. How would you run your business? Do you offer the ability to the community to vote? Do they vote on fundamental things that can really change your Web3 entity nature, or do they just vote on parameters essentially that you allow them to do? Some examples, of course, is fully self-organizing communities, and then you can go with it. So I think it's worthwhile to, again, spend some time, understand a little bit how communities operate within the Web3 space, and also understand for your business in particular, are you just a business offering a service that is using blockchain, or are you actually rather a decentralized protocol, and then you're really just kind of making the people operate that protocol in a decentralized way? A couple of things that you should probably know about. Of course, there's many tools to manage the DAOs. Aragon, for example, is one of the most popular. It is a consensus client, so it's actually using a lot of our products embedded in there. But also it's offering a great platform for people to manage their communities and their decentralized communities in particular into the space. The other thing that is quite interesting as well is some initiatives that we're working on. We're particularly proud in consensus of the announcements of Village DAO. So Village DAO is essentially a decentralized customer support portal. The major problem with many of the Web3 projects is that they're very small, right? So if you're building, let's say, a DeFi protocol, and between your engineers and your marketing, you're 10 people, customer support could be a big problem. And so for that, actually, either you have to scale and hire a lot of, support people and train them and so on, or the idea that we came up with is really to leverage expert community. So if you have a product that people are using and people like, there is probably a bunch of experts about that product, and those people can help the ones who don't know. And so, for example, Village DAO is exactly that platform that allows experts to offer their service and then get compensated for it around a particular use case. For example, in MetaMask, MetaMask has a lot of users, millions of users, and then they usually have questions that range from very simple to very complex. We as a company in consensus, we cannot scale maybe to answer everybody in real time and so on. So for example, we're leveraging Village DAO to bring all of those experienced MetaMask users to offer their own support and get compensated on it. So a lot of actually operating models are very different in how you manage your community and business and clients essentially in the Web3. So it's, again, a big pillar in this particular aspect. Coming to tech, it's a big point. I think the main remark that I will share with you is that I usually see this inverted, people thinking blockchain first and then everything else second. And really for these things to work, for any business to thrive, user experience first, and the back end, the blockchain is even less important. Ideally, actually, the business should not even depend on what blockchain. And so one of the things that many of the projects fail, and you can of course see this very easily by interacting with a few of the DeFi apps or some of the portals or even the NFT marketplaces and whatnot, is that the front end is really not easy. And everybody can screw up and can really mess up their interaction with that system. And with that, you'll have disgruntled users, you'll have unhappy users, and it will hurt the Web3 economy in the long run because people will get essentially a bad experience as interacting with it. So for the front end, for example, a few things that you have to focus on is the user journey. Think who are your users. So for example, if it's more of a traditional user play, nothing wrong with a Web2 login. If you're targeting people who are more experienced, that perhaps like a MetaMask login is the way to go. There is also a lot of thought that is being given to designing a maturity journey of this Web3 user. How do you take a 40 plus years old who's used to Facebook and Instagram and bring that same user into your platform that is more actually Web3 platform? And so perhaps there is ways for you to take the journey and mature them from, well, here, log in with your username and password, and then use my platform just as you would use your normal Web2 application. And then as you go, hey, did you know that you can actually own your assets? And then, hey, did you know that you can export these assets into your self-custody or use our custodial service? Very much like what some of the providers are doing with a custodial account, for example. So it's very important to design this journey, understand who are your users, and then go ahead and design the journey that way. Another thing that I also would like to mention for those who don't know, with MetaMask, we have launched recently the ability to customize MetaMask. So it's called MetaMask Snaps. And this is essentially a way for developers to build plugins on top of MetaMask that will allow you to design your own user interfaces, call your own APIs, maybe before the transaction or after the transaction. And this is offering a lot of possibility for people to build these experiences around the wallet. And so I invite you, if you're a builder, if you're trying to design a user experience for your project, I invite you to go and check out the MetaMask Snaps and start building some of the snaps. We'll be having actually some more content and more announcements coming soon about this. So this is a big move towards really expanding that ecosystem and extending the basic wallet view to something that is a bit more sophisticated. On the back end as well, of course, a few things that is worth considering. So, for example, blockchains are not all equal. So scalability requirements are important. Are you building a game that will have, a million transactions per second, or is it more of a low latency payment application that it's okay to take a minute to settle, for example? Certain projects are very important on the ecological impact of that project. So proof of work chains are not the same as proof of stake works and proof of stake chains. And there's other models as well. And with the merge of the Ethereum coming up probably next week, of course, this will help a lot with ecologically and ESG conscious projects to come on Ethereum. But again, there is a lot of other networks that you can evaluate for that aspect. Gas fees are important. Certain markets have certain sensibility to gas fees. If you're building an app for low economical status countries to help them with remittance, for example, or with settlement of payments, it cannot be on a network that charges them $100 for a transaction gas fee. So be mindful about this as well. The other thing that is also important is really people get carried with the network hype. So, I don't know, network X has given me a grant to build my dApp on that network. But then what they don't realize is the ecosystem of that network. That is, for example, unsecure, bad ways to bridge assets from one network to the other. The dApp ecosystem is not strong in that network. And usually in Web3, these applications interact with each other. So, if you're minting an NFT, it's good to have a good marketplace and maybe a good aggregator. So your ecosystem has that. And the developer ecosystem on a particular network is, of course, very important. So it's important to find developers, to have network that is tested enough. So, you don't fall victim to a big bug that nobody found out. And Ethereum, of course, is one of the most tested, but also there is others that are quite well tested. And compatibility. I wouldn't make myself dependent on a particular ecosystem whereby, for example, a lot of the projects that built on the Luna ecosystem, they kind of got stuck there because their funds were in that token, their technology was dependent on that, so they have to rebuild now on other technologies. Now, a bit of chilling as well, of course, from consensus. We have an API provider, so business, so Infura is a node operator. It will allow businesses to go and build a scalable application by using the APIs to deploy. Now, with this one, you'll be able to deploy really on multiple chains. You'll be able to get high reliability by using Infura today, actually high profile. So MetaMask uses Infura as a backend. Some of the major swaps uses Infura. Some browsers use Infura. So again, if you're looking for that scale, I'm happy to help on that. And finally, really looking at that customs, kind of like custom components that will allow you to build maybe specific NFT SDKs or other SDKs, and the versatility of looking at I built on Optimism, but I can just pop up and move it to Arbitrum tomorrow because it's all under the same backend. So these actually flexibilities are important for you to choose your tech stack quite properly. Cautious a bit about the time, so a couple of other things to focus on. Security. So one thing to say here is really that in Web2, when an app gets hacked, it's really personal data that gets stolen, so it's bad, but it's really not that bad. In Web3, when an app gets hacked, it's wealth and value that gets stolen. And so security should be taken in a very considerable manner. This is both the web security, user mistake proving, right? So maybe make sure that it's easy UX so people don't screw up, but also, of course, the smart contract risk and managing that part. We have, again, in consensus, this is one of the big areas we work on, which is consensus diligence. It's a smart contract audit. And with this one will allow us essentially to run the audit on your smart contract and make sure at least that the smart contract is as secure as possible. But yeah, the security impact of Web3 is a bit more hurtful, let's say. Bad security impact is more hurtful than Web2. Probably the last point that is also gets overlooked is the treasury management. If you're a Web3 business, most likely you have a token. You're most likely getting paid in cryptocurrency as well. And the problem with cryptocurrency is that unless it's probably USDC, it will fluctuate a lot. It will be related to tokens that will crash, to ecosystems that will disappear, like Luna, for example. So knowing how to manage your treasury, which is the wealth of your ecosystem, the wealth of your company, or the wealth of your DAO, whatever it is very important. So this includes a couple of things, includes researching the market condition, understanding really where your money is sitting, understanding where your money is coming. So things about compliance, and you don't want to be linked to actually non-compliant things, and seeing, for example, a lot of your funds coming through Tornado Cash, and then now you're OFC criminal, essentially. But then getting all that data to be able to monitor and make sure that your funds are moving correctly, and of course reporting on it. And last but not least, the custody, right? So if you're running a business, I wouldn't put my funds on a self-custodial MetaMask wallet. It probably should be a custodial service. So for this, I invite you also, if you are a fund, if you are a project and whatnot, to check out MetaMask Institutional, which is a version that we have released a couple of months back of MetaMask that has much more features to help businesses to really be aware of where their treasury is sitting and be able to move it around in the right manner with the right compliance and benefit from very strong custodian ecosystem that we have. So that's essentially kind of the 6 pillars. And with this one, hopefully it will take you through a growth journey with your business that will allow you to last for a very, very long time. Things that people maybe get dragged in and don't realize is really how early we are in this space. And so many of the problems that you think you're solving today are maybe not 100% understood. So be ready to evolve, right? Be ready, your business, don't make bets that you cannot change in a way. Many of the networks, for example, that you're building on are still experimental in themselves. If you're deploying on Solana is still beta, for example. Starknet is still even alpha. Ethereum is going through this journey of merging and whatnot, sharding that's coming up, that is still evolving. So be aware of all this and don't get too confident about the choices that you make, as in this is it. The blockchain Web3 space is decided. So experimentation is important. Equally, being able to evolve is very important to last a long time. The other thing is, of course, building trust. So again, because you're dealing with the wealth of your community, of your client, of your ecosystem, having that brand, you're building brands essentially. So if your business evolves from a swap to an aggregator to maybe a perp trading, something like that, people will work with that business because they know they can trust that brand and they can actually count that you checked your security mark, your tech mark, your treasury management, your community management. So all of the pillars in front, you counted on them. And of course, I invite you to work with partners who have, long-lasting ecosystems. So don't bet on somebody who appeared yesterday, but just offering you a better APY, and then just go build on that network or work with their product. We're very proud in Consensus to be actually here since day one, almost that Ethereum was created. We went through a bunch of bear markets, bull market cycles here. We are evolving ourselves and we are learning from it. And welcome to check out our ecosystem and then work with us for a very long-lasting relationship. Thank you very much. That's everything that I wanted to share. Stop the sharing.
Hi, Marouen. Thanks for the amazing speech and presentation. We do have some questions on the ground for you. So let me ask them. So one of the questions from Sanjay is, where do you see OG regarding to the content of your speech?
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
Yeah, where do you see OG, Organic Growth Project, regarding to your speech?
So I think really I think I spoke a little bit to the team and understood what you guys are building, and the fact that it's kind of focusing on the decentralization and then bringing this how to say way for people to interact by offering their service and getting help in a trustless manner. It's quite powerful. I think it of course it still has to grow. People have to hear about it. This got nothing to do with Web3. This got nothing to do with blockchain. This is purely standard growth pain of startups where you have to get the word out, right? And if I come to your marketplace, I have to find the services I'm looking for, and I have to find them for a competitive price. So essentially, you have to create liquidity for your services. But yeah, I think from kind of a fundamental pillars as a problem solving, what we're trying to solve, it's a very powerful problem statement, which is you're cutting the middleman and getting people to trust each other and interact in that way.
Thanks for answering the question. I think I myself do see OG quite far in the future because of the service they provide. I think most important for projects itself wise, it's what you do to actually help in the real life situation, bringing Web2 to Web3. So I think that's what OG actually is trying to achieve. So support OG, guys. Right, next questions we have from Yam. If I have a pitching crypto idea, can consensus help me build my project? Does it include funded?
So Consensus is a bit of a large company as well. So we have different teams that operate in more or less independent way. So Consensus has an accelerator called Tachyon, and then also has a VC called Mesh, Consensus Mesh. So these are my colleagues, but they're also quite independent. And so one of the big benefits of working with Consensus, whether you're building, of course, on the Infura or you're building on the MetaMask, is that you are leveraging the products of the company, and then in exchange you can leverage the brand of the company and leverage the introduction of the company. Like honestly, I make a lot of introductions to this Tachyon and Mesh teams for my clients that are working with me, because if the project is interesting and I know that my team will be interested in them, no harm in making the introduction. But yeah, there is no free lunch in life, so your project has to be, defend itself and pitch that idea. But it certainly opens a few doors to be part of that ecosystem.
Okay, next questions we have from Damien. We can find a lot of VC, but they usually help projects before they go live. Are there any VC groups for projects that are already launched their utilities or tokens?
I'm sure there is, but then also it depends on what state is that project in. So I've met certain projects, for example, they build, let's say in the gaming space, right? They build a game, it's running. They have the NFT pre-sales that they sold, but then the users did not come, right? And they have very, very low volume. And then I looked at it, and then I gave my personal opinion, which is just a reflection on myself. There was some choices that I would have done differently, right? So for example, they had a paywall. You could not test this amazing game until you have the $200 NFT. And then they launched on a web browser instead of launching on a mobile device, which is, this game is particularly fitting for mobile. And so I think a VC will, and they were looking, like the question asks, for a VC to fund them after they've already launched. But the VC will immediately see these things, right? And they will tell them, well, unless you fix these, whether I fund you or not, you're not gonna grow. You're not gonna. So it becomes a bit harder, because if you have launched already and it's amazingly successful, the VCs will be chasing you. But if you've launched and you have not actually managed that growth, there's probably a few things to fix, right? An iteration, experimentation. And even if you speak to VCs, they will probably say, well, I'll be happy to invest, but you got to fix those things first, right? It's always good to speak to those VCs, get that feedback, especially if you're not aware of it, right? It's always good to get that external view on the thing.
Last question for Judith Perry. This is quite a tough one. Yeah, in your opinion, what is the best blockchain? Careful, do not step on any toes.
What are they building? That's what it depends on. No, seriously, yeah. I would check what the project is building. There is, okay, I'm speaking on my personal opinion. I'm not representing anybody by mentioning this. I think the space is so experimental that there is a major fragmentation of ecosystems, right? Developer stacks, blockchain, there is a bit way too many. And this is not how it's going to be probably in 10, 20 years. There will be consolidation of a few things. And so what I chose as a personal career adventure and whatnot, and personal investment, is really to look at a few blockchains that are linked together. So I'm a strong believer in the Ethereum story as a settlement-based layer with dedicated L2s that will be maybe, gaming friendly, or they will be finance friendly. They will have some specific areas. So you got to look at what your project is and go that angle and see what they offer in that perk. And then even there will be an L3, which is the app-specific chains on top of those chains. So if my project is big enough, then it can have its own blockchain, essentially, that is rolling up to, let's say, Polygon, and Polygon is settling on Ethereum. So this story to me makes a lot of sense, and maybe because I come from an engineering background and I like things in boxes. But then again, with this pillar, you'll still see some other ecosystem that are trying to solve the same problem, but with a different approach, right? Go back to the fundamentals that I shared a little bit. The ecosystem is important. You're going to need developers. You're going to need liquidity. You're going to need partners. You're going to need dApps to integrate with. And so build on a blockchain that has most of those. And then probably the blockchain that you should build on is actually not the best blockchain. Right? And the winner of this blockchain is not going to be the best technology. It's just going to be the one that has all of these different elements available at the right time.
All right, thank you so much, Marouen, for answering
Pleasure.
that question. I think that's one of the toughest questions so far.
It's all right. It depends. The answer is it depends. Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
So yeah, I hope you guys have learned a thing or two from Marouen from Consensus itself. Yeah. So I mean, you heard about OG and what's OG roadmap ahead. So if you're a service provider, or you provide, or you're looking for a service provider, do hop on OG website. It's at OGtoken.io. Sign up for free right now. Do not wait. All right. Next up, we have Yusuf from Moralis. Do you happen to know that Moralis, apart from being co-founded by the famous YouTuber Ivan on Tech, it is a place for developers to build fast, build smart on blockchain. They are being supported by Avalanche, Chainlink, and Utrust. Moralis has empowered over 100,000 companies to build, launch, and scale. If you are from Web2 and wanting to enter a Web3 with an ease of saving time and scared of failures, Moralis is the right place. Yusuf, the floor is all yours.